Welcome back to Too Much Future, the show where we play through the Fallout games. I'm Cameron, and with me, as always, is Michael.
I'm Michael.
That's Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Or as some people might say, Mikhail.
Yes.
Based on your name tag missing a crucial letter.
Oh, I just thought I was getting a name tag based on the weird credit card offers that I used to receive when I was like 13.
And I thought you were Mikhail?
Yes.
Is this one of those scenarios where your name on your birth certificate is Mikhail?
No. There is a fun story about my birth certificate, but I'm not going to tell it on this podcast. I don't know if this happened to anyone else or if it's a thing that still happens, but just like
it only happened to you.
Okay, yeah. When I was 13, I just started getting credit card offers to like me, but like to misspellings of my name. It was very weird.
Huh. You know, you get your credit card in the mail. You open it up. You got to get through that like cardboard metal tube thing.
Uh-huh.
You open that up. Boom. Credit card. Your name. Underneath it. Master Chief. He's using the needler on your face.
Yeah, the entire time that I was playing Fallout for this episode, I was thinking, man, I wish I had a credit card.
Were you thinking, where's the Master Chief, too?
Where's the Master Chief?
I think the Master Chief would have resolved many of the issues because
he has a gun.
Because number one, he has a gun. Number two, he is a denizen of Choice Town himself. Now, Master Chief rarely has to make a choice, but he lives within a universe of Choice Town.
Uh-huh.
And do you know what's better than Choice Town?
Is it Choice Island?
It is Choice Island. You got it. Hey, we probably need to do the F-Boy Island update.
Oh, yeah.
Since we don't do that show anymore, where it would come up naturally. We got to do it right here.
Yeah, right here. Anytime there's an island.
They're making an F-Girl Island, I heard.
Yeah.
I said it couldn't be done, and here we are.
Mm-hmm.
What a fool I am.
Could not outthink the brilliant minds at Max.
That's right. Is it an acronym, you think?
Yeah, sure. Mice
Machine
against
automated.
Oh,
okay. You got machine. No, wait. You got machine something?
Yeah, I said mice against.
Oh, okay. Mice against what?
Xenophobia.
Oh, I thought maybe Xavier.
Okay.
Machine automated Xavier. It mind reads what you want, and then it tactically denies you that thing by making the finale of whatever show you're watching either A, narratively unappealing, or B, impossible to see.
That's the future.
That's the future.
Mm-hmm. Too much.
That's the future that many people want. Is when you watch a 90-minute episode and you can't see anything and everything's disappointing.
Mm-hmm. Game of Thrones, The Sopranos.
That's right.
They're bringing the two properties together, finally.
Finally, people want it. David Chase has been saying it for years. He's been saying, the thing that would improve this. I've always been trying to put my mother into the program, but I've never been able to put my love of fantasy genre media in there. And those old scamps, they got to it before I did, David Chase said. Mm-hmm. I'm reading now from the interview. I have a sword, and I'm cool, and I love to use it. They made me make a movie about an Italian-American fella, and I didn't care for that. I really wanted to make Game of Thrones. Wow, it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, David Chase. Mm-hmm. I can't believe it. You want to talk about Choice Island?
Yeah, sure. Choice Island. Far Harbor, the second sort of story add-on for Fallout 4. Actually, can we pause for a moment and just talk about what the hell is happening with... Well, actually, I think I have some ideas what's going on. We're not calling it DLC anymore, right? Like, the real term, and this is like what the wiki uses and appears to be what Bethesda uses, was add-on, not DLC anymore.
Yeah. I think that's generally the move of expansion,
right?
Content expansion. I think the term DLC only made sense in a world in which that was like unique.
Mm-hmm.
It's not unique to download things anymore.
Right.
Most video games are in fact DLC these days.
Right. In
for
the
most
strictest
consumers.
sense, yeah.
You know, God of War Ragnarok, my favorite DLC. I also think that there was a blurring. I think Horse Armor might have had something to do with this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like long tail wise, which is like DLC. The word content itself implies a kind of mush. You know, it's like downloadable oatmeal, right? It's just all coming at you. It's all undifferentiated. Who can care and who knows? You know, expansion, and also for this game that had so much like downloadable stuff to it, some of which was like content packs for the like build a bear system, whatever it was called.
Yeah,
and then some of it was more quest based or whatever. I think maybe that's part of it, but I don't know when they started doing that. But I do imagine that the term DLC, like DLC, and then alongside on disc unlockable content, you know, that everyone was so pissed off about for like a full decade. I think those two things might have poisoned the well on downloadable content, DLC.
Okay, well, so Far Harbor is like the third or fourth add-on technically, but it's after Automatron, it's mixed in with a couple of just like little content packs for the crafting system. So this one has a story in an all-new location, and golly gee, if this isn't, in my opinion at least, the best Fallout content that Bethesda has produced.
Wow. The best Fallout content that Bethesda has produced. Huh. I mean, I'd need to think about it. I'm not hostile to this idea. Explain yourself. Laudatory Lutz.
Yeah. It just well, okay, so there's a couple of things going on here. One is that, like, overall, as a piece of DLC, there's a lot going on here. We talked in Automatron about how really the story elements there were kind of thin compared to probably what you would have paid. I do not know what the... So this was $25 apparently when it went up. I would not be maybe... Like, $25 is more than 10 or whatever they charge for Automatron. There's like a lot of content in Far Harbor. Like, it's pretty big. There's a lot of stuff to do. I don't know how much you ended up doing, Cameron, but I did much more than I expected to.
I did roughly the bare minimum.
All right, so that'll be fun to figure out. Right. So, one thing is, right, like, this feels like thought out, Far Harbor does. Or, like, thought out is not quite the thing that I want to say. So... when I was talking about, like, base game Fallout 4, one of the things that I said at least once and maybe multiple times is this feeling of, like, stumbling upon locations where it feels like more stuff was maybe supposed to happen. Like, this place feels like it was designed to be a little too unique for what actually happens here, so on and so forth. But you end up with this world with a whole bunch of, like, really weird and unique locations that are just basically like little dungeons with no real characters or quests or anything associated with them. So there's not a lot of, like, story or narrative material that, like, hooks these locations into what you're doing or, like, anything else going on maybe in the game world apart from maybe, you know, these people used to be Minutemen or something, because everyone used to be in the Minutemen. Far Harbor is, I mean, in many ways, it feels like Bethesda, as closely replicating as they care to, kind of a Fallout 1, kind of Fallout 2 design philosophy, where there is a location, which is this island. I believe it's Acadia Island is the name, actually. But anyway.
Wait, is that the name? No, it's not called Acadia.
What is it called then?
Wherever Bar Harbor is.
Oh, it's Mount Desert Island. So
Little Hope Island.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, so...
Wait, Bar Island.
Bar Island. Cranberry Island.
Oh, no, I see what you're saying. AcadiaMagic.com has the info on Bar Island. So what is Acadia?
Acadia is the national park or state park or whatever it is.
Oh.
Yeah. So the actual island is Mountain Desert Island.
Got it.
So yeah, you've got like a location here. That's part of it, is that it's not like the full Fallout 4 map, but within this location, we've got like a couple of distinct settlements, and they all belong to different factions. We already talked about it being Choice Island, right? It's like, again, something that I said was falling out of the base game was the Choice Town design philosophy, which, if you're just joining us or if you don't remember, is kind of our term for the classic style RPG quest where you go to a town, there is some sort of like tension within that town that kind of splits along like factional or ideological lines in kind of universe. And you as the player get the opportunity to make a choice or a series of choices that determine like the outcome of what's going on in that town, right? You resolve whatever is the tension. So we've got this island. It's got 3 places on it, basically. Well, we can talk about sort of how you learn all of this in a bit, but the lay of the land is there is Far Harbor, which is the like the village where you land. I was going to say it's the human village, and that's actually true, because that's where most of the people live. But then there is Acadia, which was a national park and is now a like synth refuge. There's like an observatory there. And then there is a nuclear submarine on the other side of the island that is settled by the Children of Adam, the cult that also like has come back here and like really takes on kind of like character and stuff in a way that they didn't in the base game. But anyway, we've got kind of these 3 different factions, and they all have, well, the story is they all have kind of a history with one another, and there are tensions developing on this island in various ways. And what you do in this DLC, in part, is come in and you talk to people and you learn about the situation and eventually make some sort of resolution in terms of whatever the hell is going on here. And I was looking through the wiki, and there's like quite a few ways that things can play out. There's a lot of kind of like there's a surprising amount of narrative content here, and the narrative has kind of some meat to it, more so than a lot of stuff even in the base game. So yeah, when I say that this is maybe some of the best Fallout stuff that Bethesda has produced, that's what I mean, is like this feels like intentionally designed and intentionally scoped in a way that makes the whole thing feel coherent and cogent and frankly just like much more interesting than a lot of stuff that I dealt with in the base game. And then of course there's all these like silly like late game DLC design decisions where like the radioactive fog that I'm super annoyed by and have to constantly deal with. But the fact that I dealt with it, right, that's the thing, is like this DLC actually hooked me enough that I did way more than I probably had to, and dealt with a lot of stuff that I thought was way more like tedious or frustrating, simply because I was so shocked to see this happen, to see this like kind of interesting little story that it ends up telling about these 3 settlements and the tensions between them, and sort of expanding on ideas from the base game in ways that I thought were really interesting. Like just what they do with the synths here is frankly much more interesting than anything that happens with the synths in Fallout 4, the base game, right?
Is yeah, if only because it like actually treats them like they are actually robots.
Mm-hmm.
And so like does more interesting things with them because they are robots,
right?
And they're not just like human beings. And also like immediately hits you with, well, how do you know you're not a synth?
Right. This is very
like,
funny.
Moment 1. You know what I mean? It was like, well, it's interesting that you think you're not a synth. What's your first memory, nerd? And you're like, oh shit. My first memory is when this game started.
Uh-huh.
Ah, crap.
Yeah, I mean, and how do you know? How do you know Sean didn't just like build a synth of you because everyone else in the vault died?
Yeah, it's hard to know.
Yep. And then they just lied to you about being the backup.
I mean, who could know?
Who could know? Game theory.
Well, how'd you? That's just a theory. Are you a synth? Do you have free will? I don't know. Just a theory.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you get there?
So I've talked about this before. I accidentally got started on this quest way back in the regular game where I think the Brotherhood of Steel intro quest or something, one of those little Radiant quests, like sent me to Far Harbor and I just didn't progress. But how you get here is you go way up to the north of the map. There's a family that lives up here called the Nakanos. Their daughter Kasumi has disappeared. They are worried about her. And you can poke around their house and find a bunch of Kasumi's audio logs, and you get a little story out of this. Like they had she had a grandfather. He lived with them. He was kind of a tinkerer, and he taught her how to like repair all these old machines. Actually, in fact, what I have written in my notes here is just the phrase Kasumi gone home. Because that is very much what this is like going into her bedroom and like finding her little holotape underneath and like getting an audio log where she talks about being a sad, lonely teenager or whatever. And then eventually you find a holotape that suggests that she believes that she is a synth and she is going to an island to the north because I think she's like made radio contact with them or something. This was quite a while ago, so I don't remember it quite specifically. Anyway, all it comes down to is you get to take the boat out in front of the family's house and you get to toot off to Maine.
Well, yeah, her father's like, she doesn't know how it really is out there. And her mother's like, she thinks she's a synth. And you have to like, fill in the gaps there on your own. You're like, I don't know about this one.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea is like, you're going to get her. You're going to go save her from whatever's happening.
Right.
And we'll see how that works out.
Yeah. So you have to like find the key or whatever. You go into the little house, that you find a lighthouse picture, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, you get on the boat and then you zip off to your loading screen and you come back from the other end. The boat is very funny because it's automated. I just really like this because it means there's a couple points in my playthrough where I actually had to go back to the Commonwealth to get supplies and some stuff. And when you park your boat, it like Tokyo drifts into the dock. Did you ever see this?
Yeah, the first time.
Yeah, it's just so funny. And it's got like this automated like rig or whatever that's driving it. But you show up at Far Harbor.
Can I break something terrible to you?
Sure.
You know you don't have to ride that boat every time, right?
Oh, can you just fast travel?
You can. There's a little like out in the ocean. There's a little button that's like the Commonwealth, and you just click the button.
So you just have to go out into the ocean?
No, like on the map.
Oh,
like,
I see.
Like on the fast travel map, there's like a little icon over to the right. And if you click that, it'll
okay.
beep you back and forth real easy.
Okay. No, I mean, that's fine. I'm not really angry. I liked riding my automated Tokyo Drift boat. You show up on the island, and there's two people arguing, and it turns out, I think it's Captain Avery and the guy Alan. You try to talk to them, but nope, like something's attacking the little village, so you gotta go out front, and you fight some new enemies, which are called Gulpers and Anglers.
God, you surely do.
Yeah.
I love going to the boonies and having to fight a mutant human from the beautiful mountains of Pittsburgh to the beautiful swamps of Swamptown, Maryland. Truly, leaving the main quest area exposes you to the wonderful, gooped up creatures that live around the world.
These things are big old salamanders. That's the Gulpers. These things...
Oh, are they really?
Yeah, they look like salamanders.
I mean, it was dark 95% of the time when I was playing this game, and I couldn't see shit. Just to be honest. Like, could not see shit for most of the time.
Oh. Well, the anglers are just like giant walking anglerfish. How did this work for you? Because for me, so the town has like a defense wall, and you can be up on top of it, and you can like shoot down as these critters come up. But I know that you are melee, so I figured you would have to get out there and tussle with them.
I did. I just jumped off the wall and smashed them all up.
Okay, and it worked out for you.
Yeah, not too bad.
Okay,
could have been way worse.
Yeah. There's also all these like weird poles out there, like they look like insect zappers or something, but it turns out that the island is covered in the fog, capital F, and it is basically just annoying radioactive stuff that you have to deal with, and also I guess everyone here has to deal with, but they have somehow come into possession of this technology with these poles that are called fog condensers, I believe, and they actually repel the fog so that people can like live in the town, right? They have them around the town to keep the fog away, but otherwise that's sort of like, this is like trying to set you up, here's what you're in for. You're in a new location. You remember the radiation storms from the base game? Well, we kind of got that, except it's this fog, and then here are the new enemies. And people are like, hey, you should talk to Old Longfellow if you want to go to Acadia, because you can ask about Kasumi, and everyone's like, I don't know who that is. If you're looking for someone talking about synths, then that's probably up at Acadia, because that's where all the synths live, because it turns out that is like a synth refuge. And so they put you in touch with Old Longfellow, who is like a local trapper, and he leads you on a little like not exactly escort quest, because you just have to follow him, but he like runs up to the top of that hill, and then you get to meet all the synths. What did you think of Old Longfellow?
I don't know why he's in this game. Like, I guess we needed to have like a Far Harbor like dude. You know what I mean? Like a guy who represents that, but he's just like an old guy.
Yeah.
Which is like, no shade to old guys. It's not what I'm saying, but like, he's just a dude who's like lived here a long time. It has not helped that it feels clear to me that you're supposed to play this DLC with Nick Valentine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're rewarded for that. I did not play with Nick Valentine, so I ran into all these places where it was like, oh, having Nick Valentine here would obviously matter.
Mm-hmm.
It would like be a deal that mattered here. And so I don't know what Old Longfellow would give you. I thought he was kind of a nothing character, and I was really shocked that we got to the end of his little escort or follow me quest or whatever, and he was like, all right, I'll join you. I'm your best friend now. And I said, I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Did you hang out with him?
No, not really. I had Curie with me, and none of this ended up in my footage for reasons that I'll explain. But Curie and Eleanor are in love now.
Why?
I don't know. I was just like, I guess, nice enough to her and picked dialogue options that she liked. But she was like,
I'm in love with you.
Right. She's like, I need to talk to you. She's like, why is it that when you say things to me, I feel so strange in my head? And all things like that. And I can like flirt with her, right? Those are my options. So I'm just like flirt, talking about how awesome her hair is. And she's like, this is what I am talking about. But yeah, so
I love it when you're talking about my hair. I did not have hair before. Now I have hair.
Right.
Curie is also with me. I have modified Curie into a horrifying death machine. That is like terrifying to behold.
Mm-hmm.
She has a nail gun, like the railroad rifle, basically.
Yes.
On one arm. Has arms now, by the way, protruding from her big orbular head.
Yeah.
Has a nail gun from one and an auto laser rifle on the other one. And they just melt dudes, like straight up. And they won't let you put too many guns on a robot. And so I had to replace all of her little tentacle leg things,
Mm-hmm.
I had to replace those all with circular saws. So she'll like get right up in you and just mow you down. So it's pretty cool overall. But yeah, and so she's like, I hate it when you are mean to people. I wish we could all get along on the surface. It's very good.
Awesome. Yeah, so Longfellow runs off. You go into this old observatory. there are a bunch of people hanging around. They're all synths. And the first kind of thing that you meet is Dima, who is pretty cool. Dima, well, it's pretty cool looking, I guess. I don't know about the final execution, but he is a kind of old model synth. Looks very much like he's got all of these giant vacuum tubes sticking out of him, which is pretty neat. I like that. And
Very neat. He's rad.
He talks like a very stereotypical robot, like artificial intelligence. He's like, "What do you need? I am Dima. I have made Arcadia as a sanctuary for the synths."
The very way that I talk and act makes anyone who played a video game between 1997 and 2007 immediately worried.
Right, yeah. It's very much, you meet a robot that talks like this, and you're like, all right, start the counter to when this thing like turns evil, and then very calmly explains why it has to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What if Choice Island had a third way? What if a universe of choices were possible? If those choices were 1, 2, or 3. Ha ha ha.
That is the...
Hey, why is it called a fog condenser when it doesn't do any condensing?
I don't know. It does the opposite of condensing. It's a disperser.
It is a disperser. It's weird.
Yeah.
Maybe it turns into liquid. Maybe it's just wet as hell on the ground around them. Like it turns into condensation.
Right.
I don't know.
So yeah, you can talk to Dima, and he's like, "Yep, I escaped from the Institute, and I set up this place for all the synths to hang out. Isn't that awesome? Oh yeah, Kasumi, she's definitely here. She came to us, and she's like downstairs doing something. By the way, here are my scientists who helped me out. You can talk with them. Do you want to help us out? Have some side quests? Cool." And so I ended up going down and talking to Kasumi, since that was the reason that I was here. And did you do this? How did all this go for you?
Of talking to Kasumi?
I mean, am I describing basically more or less what you did as well?
Yeah. So I got there and got to Far Harbor and like listened to all these people like rootin' tootin' about their different opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And then I followed Longfellow directly. I was trying to kind of golden path it to open up some time to do some additional side quests or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I finished it about an hour and a half ago.
Oh, okay.
Which included me having to wake up very early this morning to do it. So I am Harbor headed. You know what I mean? And not David Harbor.
Oh,
That's right. Get out of there.
yeah.
Not Santa Claus. But now you remember back when we talked about the Children of the Atom like a few episodes ago, and we kind of spitballed up this thing. Wouldn't it be cool if the Children of the Atom were their own faction?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're in Fallout 4 proper, in the Commonwealth, the Children of the Atom, and in Fallout 3, they're basically nuclear hippies.
Yes.
Hey, man, the whole universe we're going to get divided, man. Toke on this doobie and get divided, man. Yo, like that kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they're evangelicals.
Yes.
No good. Downvote.
Yeah.
Thumbs down.
Yep. They're evangelicals, and they get even weirder later on. In terms of like, I guess, Bethesda pedigree or whatever. But yeah, you meet.
So I meet this lady,
Mm-hmm.
and she is such a jerk to me. Tonks smashes her to death.
Oh wow!
Boom, day one. Tonks writing in his journal. Went up a mountain today. Saw a lady whose hair was melting off due to radiation poisoning. Smashed her to death.
Boom.
Followed old guy up mountain. Met friendly robot.
Oh, the other thing that we forgot is that you remember raiders from Fallout? Well, now they're trappers because we're in Maine.
Yep. What's really funny about them, another flavor of orc that we've gotten. And I only fought these guys, I think, twice. Like, period. I only got into a conflict with them 2 times.
I fought a lot more of them, but I'll talk about that.
Okay. All right.
We the Trappers, Children of the Atom, and they're like one of the factions, and something's going on there. But you talk to Dima, he's like, yeah, Kasumi's downstairs. So I go and I talk to her, and I'm like, hey, you want to, like, I don't know, go to... Also, it's with Dima that you have the whole conversation where he's like, how do you know you're not a synth? I actually think in the way that I don't remember if I put this footage in my video, but I think I ended up having Eleanor say, like, yeah, I'm probably a synth. Like, sure thing.
You got me. You got me, Dima. I'm a synth. Well, so you can meet Kasumi?
Yes.
Isn't there a Mass Effect character named Kasumi?
There is, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, she was a DLC character, actually.
Oh my god.
Yep.
But you go down and you talk to her and it's really funny. She's like, hey, I'm here. It seems pretty clear because I have all these memories from being a child and or not a child, being like younger than I am right now when like there's a room and I'm getting mind wiped and shit. So I'm pretty sure I'm a synth. And I love that you can just straight up be like, you're not a synth. You're just alienated.
Yeah.
From your own conditions. Although there is a way that this DLC takes it's what the allegoricization thing, using robots as allegories, right? It's the X-Men problem, right? Like, what form of marginalization are these things exactly, right? There's this like deep ambiguity because here it's not really the kind of racial allegory that it is before, right? The railroad and having to escape across the thing and them being treated as second-class citizens within specifically the Institute. There's this very much racialized backbone that the thing rides on, what Lavender would call a black ground, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's this kind of like use of race as the operator of the allegory. Here, in this add-on, much more sexual identity, it feels like.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like, I wanted to come here to be around people like me. My family would not accept me for the way I was. I couldn't even reveal it to them because I knew they would not accept me. So then I had to go find my people.
Right.
Like, that's the way Kasumi's story is told. And I think that's really interesting that this is a common thing across science fiction. It's actually not that interesting. It's actually pretty banal, just to be honest with you. But the way that it happens here is notable and worth tracing for someone who has more time to write about this than I do, about how the synth specifically in this game turns into all these different things in much the same ways the ghoul has before too, right? There's a way that in each Fallout game they need to pick a thing, a creature, a subject position, a type of dude, who then stands in for just marginalization.
Right.
I think it's social marginalization in particular. And it's just notable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very weird, like these conversations that you end up having all around where everyone's like, well, are you a synth? Am I a synth? I could be a synth. What makes you think you aren't a synth? Why aren't these conversations happening in the base game, right? I mean, that's just not how it was designed or whatever, but like, and as you say, like there's a shift in how the allegory is working, but it does raise that question for me, or actually, I guess the better way to put it is that it really underscores how underwritten everything RE Synths is in the base game, simply because this could be a question, right? Like the fact that it is only asked up until this point, could you be a synth? Or like that you can talk to characters about being synths really in any sort of in-depth way. I don't know. It happens. But Kasumi, you can talk to her and she is happy to be here. And she's also got some like reservations. She's got some suspicions. She was looking at Dima's memories, I think is how she says it. And she...
that, and also she's overheard some stuff.
Mm-hmm. So she knows that there's like some sort of secret in Acadia. Something's going on. And some of the memories that she's found that Dima has are like calculations he's done, like death projections for if Strife ever comes to the island or whatever. Like Dima's plotting something or has plotted something, has been up to something. So Kasumi is like, can you help me figure this out? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And you get a couple options. I know she explains that you can like hang out in a room and like eavesdrop on Dima talking to one of his lieutenants. But I chose not to do that. I just walked right out of that room, and I walked upstairs, and I walked up to Dima, and I was like, hey, Kasumi said she found a bunch of death projections in your memories. What's up with that? And this is another thing I like about this DLC is that me having put a bunch of points into, I don't know, whatever governs speech checks here. I don't remember exactly how that works out.
Charisma points or some shit.
Charisma, yeah. Anyway, that like basically never mattered in the base game. Like I actually complained about this. I remember because you get like highlighted in yellow or red like speech options that have a persuasion chance on them or whatever, but it's never really clear like what it entails or what's going on. But here it's very clear that you are like, you can like try to persuade someone to tell you something. And so when I'm talking to Dima, he doesn't really want to tell me. And I just like persuade him. Like I cajole him into telling me what is going on. And he's like, all right, so here's the issue. I am an old model synth. I can't hold all my memories in my head. They have to be taken out and put into other, like they basically like he has to like offload memories into storage, right? He can't have all of his memories on him at one time. And he and the rest of the synths at Acadia are in a bit of a pickle because one of the places where he has stored his memories is on a computer system that is close to the nucleus, which is where the children of Adam have stationed themselves. And in fact, Dima let them do this, right? Like, this is the other interesting thing about this is that, like, we're not just on Choice Island, we're like second order Choice Island. Dima fled like 100 years ago or something, and ended up here. And so a lot of the ways that things are arranged on the island are arranged in the way that they are because Dima has like made decisions or like interacted with people in the past that have resulted in the present state of affairs. So like he let the children of the Atom hang out in the nucleus, where he keeps his memories. The problem is the children lately have become like radicalized, like a new leader has come to power, and they are a lot more cantankerous and want to like, they think that the people in the harbor are doing blasphemy with these fog condensers. Because they love radiation. Radiation is God. So these fog condensers that kill the radioactive fog, that's bad, right? That's a blaspheming God. But the fog condensers themselves were built by Dima and the other synths and given to the people in Far Harbor as like a gift, right? As kind of like this show of goodwill. So in the same way he let the children of the Atom live in the nuclear submarine, he is letting, or like, you know, providing this technological service to Far Harbor. And he also has like a wind turbine field that he's using to like power the condensers and all this stuff. So he is put himself in this position where he thinks it is his mission to provide a safe haven for synths and at the same time like mediate the tensions between the children and the harbor. But the children are sitting on a bunch of sensitive information that he literally doesn't know about because those like they are just memories that have been taken out of his head. So he would like you to go get those memories if you can.
Please go get my memories that I don't want anymore. Please. It works.
Yep.
Weirdly. It feels like it shouldn't. I mean, this is a super cool idea, right? That this character can like shunt these ideas out of their brain in any given moment. That's pretty rad, I think, personally.
Yes.
So it sounds like did you do like all the additional side quests and stuff? Because like the way this works for me is it's like, because the thing you haven't said is like when you get the quest to go with like Old Longfellow, you can also do a bunch of side quests in Far Harbor.
Right.
And when you get the quest from Dima to go do this thing, there's a bunch of side quests you can do with Dima and like help out the synths. Perhaps it is unshocking that you can also do the same thing with Children of the Atom in a minute. Did you do all of these things?
I did basically all of them except for Children of the Atom.
Gotcha. So I didn't do any of them, like not a single one. So curious to hear, I don't know, where'd you go from here? Did you like do them in the middle here?
Yeah, basically I went back to Far Harbor. or maybe I started this before. So the other thing that happens here is that I played my first session. So part of the reason this happened is because I was just sort of like accepting quests and then like going through, because I had no idea how actually big this DLC was. Mm-hmm. And so before I knew it, I was like caught up, and I had done like a huge chunk of like the Far Harbor quests. And at some point, actually very early on, my OBS crashed. So I lost all of the footage for a huge chunk in the middle. But basically, the Far Harbor quests, what I did was, like, what happens is Captain Avery, who's this woman who's in charge of the harbor, she's like, well, you can help us out if you like. Like, here are some people who need help. So you get like these little leads. There is a quest called Blood Tide where you talk to this woman named Cassie Dalton, who's like, for me, she was just like sitting in a bistro chair or something on the dock. And she's like, my family's been on this island for generations, and the island always takes us. It's that kind of thing, right? Like sort of the old island person thing. And she's talking about how
some sort of Lieutenant Dan of the island.
Yes, right. She's like the island like wants our blood. And she talks about how she had her cousin Petey. He went out to the park ground to the northwest, and some ghouls killed him because the island always takes the Daltons. And she wants us to go get some revenge. So you go off to this campground. And you shoot a bunch of ghouls, and you get the vengeance on them for Cassie Dalton, and she's super happy about that. Captain Avery is like, hey, I sent out this guy to put up some other fog condensers, and he hasn't reported back. Can you take these other fog condensers or like some parts for them or whatever and go find him? And you go out and you follow the trail that she gives you, and you fight some Mirelurks, and it turns out he's been killed by the Mirelurks, and you set up these other fog condensers. Then Cassie Dalton, for the Blood Tide, she's like, oh, by the way, my grandfather, George, he was killed by some sort of monster up on the coast, a fog crawler. You should probably go do something about that. The island always takes the Daltons. So you go up to that, the place that she marks on your map, and there's a thing there called a fog crawler, which is a giant mutated glowing lobster. And I just sniped the hell out of that, and I killed it, and I go back and I tell her, and she's like, thank you, that's great. By the way, my husband Danny Dalton, he went up to the Brooks Head Lighthouse, and he was killed by some trappers there. The island always takes the Daltons. It wants our blood. Can you go get revenge on those trappers for my husband Danny? So I go up to that lighthouse, all on the other side of the island, and it's filled with a bunch of trappers, and I fight them, and you go up to the top of the lighthouse, and they have like a named little, I think he's named, like a little lieutenant or sergeant or whatever, but you take him out, and then you find a holotape, and you can play it, and it's some other guy saying like, oh, I can't believe that Dalton lady sent me out here. Like, what the hell is she talking about? Blah, blah, blah. And so you're not the first person that Cassie Dalton has sent on these quests. So you go back to tell her that you've, one, taken out the trappers, and then two, ask her, hey, I found this tape. What's that mean? And she's like, yeah, I don't know. I might have made up all the stuff that I told you. like you basically, because I think on the tape he says something about how like, I don't think that woman was telling me the truth. And she just sort of admits, she's like, yeah, I don't know. It might just be kind of like island mythology or something. But thank you so much.
What the hell?
Yep, she's sort of nuts. And then there is the Mariner, who is the woman who is in charge of that barricade that I talked about in front of the like little town. The first thing that she says is she's like, well, I need to, we took some hits. I need some reinforcements for the barricade. The hull is what they call it. Go to this factory that's somewhere else on the island. There's like tools in this factory, bring them back here, and I'm going to put them in the hull. So I go off and I do that. I bring them back, and then she's like, all right, and I need to do more. I need to put more stuff in the hull. I really want to make this thing as strong as can be. And I can be like, you're really dead set on building up the defenses here. Do you know something? Like, what's going on? And she's like, oh, great, I'll tell you. I have an incurable illness. I'm gonna die. There's nothing that can be done about it. And before that happens, I want to have the strongest barricade possible in place so I can know that I did my part for Far Harbor. And I'm like, okay, cool. She's like, so go to this boat over on the other side of the island. It's got a really good hull on it. I want you to pull some pieces off the hull and bring them back here. So I go over there. It's filled with more trappers. I kill them. I get the hull pieces. I come back to her. She sets that all up. That's great. Love it. In the middle of this, there's this guy named Brooks, maybe? I don't know. Some guy comes up to me in the middle of the town, and he's like, hey, have you heard of the Captain's Dance? And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And he's like, the Captain's Dance is an ancient harbor ritual where in old times, how they picked like the captain of the harbor is someone would go out and they would chum the waters to attract the island's most vicious creatures, and then they would fight them in single combat. Just telling you this in case you felt like you wanted to do it. You should go out to this swamp over on the island and drop some meat in the water, and you can do the Captain's Dance. It would be really cool if you did that. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I go off to that area and I drop some meat into the water. It's like this big old swamp. And a whole bunch of Mirelurks start popping up, and I kill those Mirelurks. And then there's like another wave of like even more powerful Mirelurks, and I kill those Mirelurks. And then some more Mirelurks. I think it's like a Mirelurk king, and I kill those Mirelurks. And then it's a Mirelurk queen. And I run around a whole lot, and I eventually kill this Mirelurk queen. I'm lucky in this case because it doesn't have like a little skull by its name. That means that it's like super powerful, which has been the case when I've encountered any other Mirelurk queen. Eventually I shoot it a bunch, and then like I default to Eleanor's like classic tactic, the nukes. So I nuke the Mirelurk queen, go back to town. They're like, holy hell. The mainlander did the Captain's Dance. Now we shall feast for days. A thing I forgot to mention. Did you see this? There's a Mirelurk being kept in a giant tank in the town square in the way that you would keep like lobsters in like a lobster tank in the supermarket. Yeah.
You know, I kind of thought it was like being maybe used as like a what's that? Like a Coke freestyle machine?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you can go and poke different parts of the thing to get the juices out.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of the way it looks.
It is sort of how it looks, right? It's just hanging out there.
So, you know.
Yeah. But now there's like a whole feast, and everyone's eating, I guess, pieces of this Mirelurk queen. And they're like, the Captain's Dance, hooray. And I get like a special captain's hat for that. And then I get like a giant chunk of Mirelurk queen meat called the Captain's Feast. Awesome. Then there's a little girl named Small Bertha, and I'm supposed to talk to her, and she's like, yeah, I got a job for you, and I got payment too. And she's only got like, she says it's like 4.5 caps or something. But she wants you to go to an old lumber mill that's in the middle of the island, and she wants you to go out there and like clear out some monsters and put up some fog condensers because and when I say like, she's literally, it's like one of the children, right? Like a child's model, and she's just like, we need to start like putting up more settlements around the island. Like, not all of us can live here in the harbor, so we need to start making other towns. She's a very forward-thinking little girl. So you go out to the lumber mill, you clear that out, and then there's a guy there named Malcolm. And he's like, he comes running up to you out of the fog. And you also know by this point that if people spend too long in the fog, like things happen to them. So he's a little weird. And he's like, hey, what are you doing here in my lumber mill? And you can be like, I wanted to send some people out here. And he's like, you're going to send people? That's awesome. Send people out here and then I'll eat them. And what the heck? Yep. And you can be like, you're a cannibal? And he's like, meh, meh. And you can either agree and like, say like, yeah, I'll send people from Far Harbor to here and you can eat them. Or you can say that's gross and kill him. And that's what I did. Then back to town. There's a bar here called The Last Plank. There's a bartender. His name is Mitch. You talk to him and he's like, my Uncle Ken, he lives up in some other place on the island. And my crazy old Uncle Ken, he's getting on in years. And I really wish he was closer to here so I could, know how he was doing and take care of him if he needed help. But oh, crazy old Uncle Ken, he won't leave his homestead. If you could go up there and talk to him, that would be really great for me. So I go up there to find Uncle Ken, and I think it's another, national park place or something. But you find him, and it's, booby-trapped all to hell. And you find him, and he's like, yeah, they're raiders here, and I'm going to fight the raiders. And then you get to, open the crafting menu, and you have to put down turrets and stuff and, fight off waves of raiders for him. Eventually, you can be like, yeah, I was sent by your nephew, Mitch. He really misses you. He's really worried about you. And the conversation here can go in a couple ways, it seems like. One is you don't convince him and he stays, but I used my speech options and I convinced him to go back to town and to hang out with Mitch. So that was awesome. Then the Mariner... she comes back and she's like, hey, I need Mirelurk carcasses for the hull because I've got a really good hull going here. But if a Mirelurk queen attacked, her acid, it would eat right through it. And the only thing that can withstand Mirelurk queen acid is Mirelurk carapaces. So get me some of those. And luckily I've got a bunch of those because I've killed plenty of Mirelurks. So that's awesome. And then the Mariner's like, all right, awesome. You did that. I've got another quest. It's called The Great Hunt. That's not actually what she says, but she's like, there's this legend of the Red Death. This is, now that I've made the hull as strong as it can be, I have time to add one last bullet point to my name and my legacy. I want to go to Red Death Island and find the Red Death, which is this mythological monster that lives on an island off the coast of this island, like a smaller island. And no one knows what it is. No one's ever seen it. But in the fog, there's a red light that comes up and it lures boats to their doom. And so many people have seen it and so many people have crashed and so many people have never come back. I want to go to Red Death Island and I want to fight the Red Death. Now, luckily, I take a break in between this and then actually finishing it. So there's footage of what I'm about to describe. You hop on the boat, you go out to Red Death Island, and you hop off your boat. There's the Mariner. She's gotten off her boat, and she's like, I can't believe that's it. And I'm like, what? And I turn around, and on this little island with a bunch of wrecked boats around it is a teeny tiny Mirelurk with giant glowing red eyes. Huh. And so the glowing red eyes have been caught in the fog and it's magnified the effect because it is the teeniest, tiniest little Mirelurk. And it's just running around. And the Mariner is extremely embarrassed and Eleanor is just like, well, we'll just lie. We'll just say it was something cooler. And she's like, all right, fine. And then the one negative to this quest, because this is like a Fallout 2 gag, right? That's what this feels like. One negative here is that in order to finish the quest, I have to kill the little Mirelurk. Oh, I know. It wouldn't let me, I couldn't just go back to the island and finish it. I actually had to kill this thing. So that happened. Then I did some Acadia quests. Chase is one of Dima's lieutenants, and he is it's she, because one's a guy and one's a woman. Chase is the woman, and she's like, there's this synth who was supposed to show up here a couple days ago, and he hasn't. I'm really worried about him. I need you to go into town and figure out what's going on. Well, how do I do that? She says, you should talk to Brooks, who runs the general store. He's actually a synth. And he's our contact for synths who come onto the island who are laying low. He directs them up toward us. So you should go talk to him and figure out what happened. So I go back to the town, I talk to Brooks, I confront him with the information that he is a synth in order to get him to tell me about this. And he says, yeah, that synth came through. He was really jumpy. And before I could do anything, he actually like ran off in whatever direction, like south of town. So go look for him in that direction. So I do. I go down and go down the road, walking through the wilderness. Eventually you find like a little campsite and there's like blood splatter on the ground. And so then you have to follow the blood splatter, and you follow the blood splatter even more through the wilderness, and you come up upon this big old rickety house. And this is apparently where you're supposed to go. So you go up and you like knock on the door and you like open it. And there's a bunch of trappers in there. And there's one trapper in particular who you can talk to. And you're like, hey, I'm looking for this person who might have come through here, blah, blah, blah. Well, this is where it gets super confusing, Cameron. It turns out they ate him.
There's a lot of eating people going on.
Yeah, but also just to like underscore this, the trappers ate the synth because they're cannibals, and I guess eating synths counts as cannibalism.
Mm-hmm.
But
synths are made of flesh.
Yeah, that's true.
They just have robot pieces in them.
Yeah. I'm
that
just
little chip in their brain or whatever.
Chip in their brain and maybe other parts. I don't know. Anyway, like
if a thing believes it's human and you're a human and you eat it, is it cannibalism? I think that's what you're asking me.
Yeah, I'm also sort of wondering, like, what was it like for these trappers to, like, carve up the long pig here, and then it's like, oh, robot endoskeleton. No thoughts on that, because we're trappers, I guess.
Yeah, they don't think. I wouldn't be too worried about it.
Yeah. So I do that, go back and tell her, and I'm like, yep, he got eaten. And she's like, oops. Then the other lieutenant is Faraday. He's like, hey, there's a boat that has some like data drives on it over on this other place on the island. You should go get those. I do. I come back and I'm like, hey, here are those drives you asked for. And he's like, where's the third? And I'm like, I don't know. There were just the two. And he's like, well, I thought there were three. Anyway, thanks. So I guess there probably is a third. It's just like more secretively hidden and I didn't get it. So that was a whole bunch of stuff that I did up until the point I went to the nucleus, because you can talk to Kasumi after all that stuff with Dima, and Kasumi will be like, yeah, you should like go check out what's going, like get those memories and we'll figure out what to do next. So I assume you also went to the nucleus?
I did go to the nucleus, and I was told by some... well, first of all, I saw the nuclear Joker. Did you see the nuclear Joker?
I did not see the nuclear Joker, no.
There's a guy out front. He's like lead zealot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. I didn't think of Joker when I saw this guy.
Oh, it's the scene from the Joker with he breaks the pool cue.
Oh,
in The Dark Knight.
Right.
It's that, right?
Yeah.
Because he's like, there's only room for one adherent, to the thing. I think that both of you, your faith is wavering. Prove your faith. And the one's like, please, lead zealot, don't kill me. And the other one just blasts him. You know what I mean? Like, no pausing. And he's like, very good, priestess, madam. And then they go inside or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then he tells me, hey, if you want to get inside here, you gotta go get trippy. You gotta go drink some juice, some nuclear juice. Which, by the way, think back to the swamp zone from the previous game.
Yeah, Point Lookout.
Right? You had to go in and drink some weird juice there, too.
Yep.
People love their weird juice in DLCs.
They do. They love to get trippy on weird juice. Yeah, he's That's like, right. you need to go to Adams Spring and undertake a trial.
Oh, my God. Yeah, the trial was fine. It was just like I went and it made the world blurry, and there were like creatures running about, and I got a little what do you call it? Like a little like omen of a lady, and I never learned what that meant.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, fascinating.
You don't have to. That's like kind of the really interesting thing about it is lots of things the game presents to you as if you need to do. I actually really like this. It's very Fallout 2-y.
Yeah.
In Fallout 1 and 2-y. if you just think logically about, well, what would I actually need to do here, you can just do it. So you can skip a lot of these steps.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do?
Like, for example, so I got the thing. I got this like little wooden statuette, and they're like, then I go back to the nucleus, which is the submarine bay, this nuclear sub bay that they're all living in, and I say, hey, I got this thing. What's up? And the guy said, you should go show that to the Grand Inquisitor, or whatever. What's his name? What's the guy's actual name? Tectus the what, though?
He's like the High Confessor or something.
Yeah, something like that. And so he's like, you should show that to him. And the game is continually telling you, like, you need to get their trust. Blah, blah, blah. I don't do any of that shit. I just walked directly to... I skipped talking to anybody, and I walked directly to the place where we were going. Like, and got his memories and left. I didn't talk to anyone inside the nucleus, because you don't have to.
No, you don't. So what I did is I did the same thing, you know, like ran through the woods and so on and found that little effigy. I presented that to the zealot, and he's the one who actually explained to me who that woman was, because I could talk to him about it. I was like, yeah, I saw some like weird, creepy woman in the fog. And he's like, my God, you saw her too? So this is where things are getting really weird with Children of the Atom. And I don't know if they'll follow this up in future games or not. But he explains that the figure that I saw is known as the Mother of Fog, who is like basically the Virgin Mary of the Children of Atom cult. And everyone has hallucinations of her when they drink from that spring, which just, I don't know, raises a whole lot of questions, I guess, in terms of what's going on here. Is there, in fact, like some sort of like, I don't know, divine numinous that the Children of Atom are tapping into? The whole thing actually sounds a little bit, the way that they talk about the Mother of Fog, it's very similar to Elder Scrolls, right? And how the Dark Brotherhood there talks about the Night Mother.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the same deal, too, because in Skyrim, maybe you get this little effigy. Don't you get an effigy of the Night Mother somewhere?
Oh, probably, yes, I think so.
I think maybe it's in Skyrim.
Yeah. So that's just, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Like, is there, in fact, some sort of divinity behind nuclear power in the Fallout universe? Perhaps. But I also, like, I said very few things to Tectus. He, like, went into the submarine. I'm like, I don't care. You're boring. So I also then went into the, I guess what used to be the command center for this place, which is now filled with a bunch of murderous robots and lasers and whatnot.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I fought a bunch of robots. I punched them.
Mm-hmm. I shot them.
Smashed them with a hammer. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
What'd you shoot them with? You got a better gun yet?
I am still mainly using the railgun, or the railway gun, or whatever they call it. It's just, it can't be beat. I don't know why. I just obliterate things with it.
I mean, why would you fight what works?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Exactly. So then you have to get into the computer where Dima has stored all of his memories, and
hey, you ever done a thing that sucked? That was just a huge waste of time? And made a thing actively worse. You ever do that in a video game? You ever do something in the game that just makes the whole experience actively worse?
Now, I think people might have some sort of idea that I'm a bit of a hater. And I want to be clear that I am not a hater. And I am very open-minded and broad-hearted. And I want to congratulate...
Get a load of this guy, everybody. He's saying he's not a hater.
I want to congratulate and commend the people who are working on this game for the idea of what was happening here. Because what you do is you basically have to jump into cyberspace and, like... unencrypt Dima's memories, right? Like, that's the conceit, whatever. The form that this takes is basically a mini game that is built out of pieces of the base game. And I think that this is a fun notion. I think it is really, I commend the creativity and the idea of okay, like can we have the player do something new, or kind of like switch this up in a way that really makes the game feel different and makes the player feel like they are doing something that they haven't done in the normal run of this Fallout game. Like, I think that that's a good impulse, and I think that the way that this little mini game basically like reformats the crafting system, I think that's clever, right? Make use of what you have. On the other hand, as you say, Cameron, it is not actually that fun at all, because it's weirdly enough, it reminds me of the hacking sequences from like System Shock 2 when you go into cyberspace in those games, or rather in that game, because it's like a full like Tron style neon colored abstract shape computer space kind of thing with a bunch of Bungie style like floating robot drones that shoot things. But it also plays like Lemmings, where the idea is you have to get a bunch of what are they called in the game? They have like a name, but they're just like little bugs.
I don't know what they're called. Yeah, they are legit
indexers.
Bugs.
Indexers is what they call them.
Indexers.
Yeah.
Fighting indexers.
And you have Dima, who is like voicing over the whole thing in the slowest damn way possible, like tutorializing this thing to you. And you've got to like build little bridges across floating platforms so your little bugs can get to a big yellow column, and then they like pick up the information and then they scurry back to the starting point. But when they do that, right, when they start picking up information, then the countermeasures get activated, and these are like little red drones that will shoot your little information bugs. And so you have to use the crafting system not just to build walkways between the platforms. You've got to put down turrets that will protect your little bugs. And you've also got to like move around various blocks and things to like redirect beams into quote unquote firewalls so your bugs can pass. This, that, and the other. Again, clever conceits. In actual practice, this is so tedious to do.
Well, I learned a thing doing the 5th one, because there are 5. That I didn't know for the first 4 that would have made them a lot better.
What's that?
You can store extra blocks, and you don't have to carry them one by one.
Wait, I tried so hard to figure out how to do this. How do you do it?
So the way that you do it is you cannot pick them up and try to store them.
Oh my god.
You just hover over it and hit the store button, which presumably is how it works in the rest of the game, in the rest of the city building stuff. And it's just been so long. I mean, not literally so long, but I just hadn't done that enough. For the most part, I don't store anything in the main game, right? I'm destroying things and then building things. I'm very rarely building something and then storing it. And so, it's extremely annoying. It's some of the worst gaming in human history. To move those blocks one by one.
Yeah, it was very bad. I hated it.
It's way easier if you just store them all and then go from there. Now, I discovered that about 30 minutes into the final puzzle.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
Does that make you feel better?
I mean, makes me feel better for you. Makes me feel worse for me, because I never figured out how to do that.
Yep. But it's not good.
Yeah. So you get, as you said, there's 5 little puzzles. That means you get 5 memories. I wrote down, it looks like 4 of them. I don't know what the others. I think maybe the first one is just like, I am Dima and I'm going to put my memories away. Maybe. But the others that are super important, one memory is nuclear launch codes for the nuke on the Nucleus submarine. So Dima had that, and the place where the children of Adam are, Dima could have destroyed that in a heartbeat if he wanted to, and instead removed that information from his head and put it somewhere. Turns out it's at an old hotel. Dima also has a wind farm kill switch. That is to say, a code that will take down the wind farm that he set up to power Far Harbor. So not only can he destroy the Children of the Atom, he could also destroy Far Harbor if he wanted to, but he took out that memory and hid the kill switch code in some other location. Then there's another tape that is, I guess, his first memory of Nick Valentine, who presumably he escaped from the Institute with or something. So at one point I went back and got Nick to see if like I could have a little more information here, and it apparently can only happen during the first conversation, because I never got a conversation between Dima and Nick.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another opportunity with him. You meet like Kells or whatever, that like robotic panel.
Oh, Kai's?
Kai, yeah, maybe.
Or Kai, yeah,
whatever it's called. And that one also is like, hey, you need to have Nick Valentine with you to like do this, and I did not go and do that.
Oh, I had Nick Valentine with me for that, and it didn't say Nick Valentine specifically. It mistook Nick Valentine for Dima.
Yeah. So if you don't have Nick Valentine, it pops up and it says like, you need Nick Valentine to do this part of the game.
Oh, interesting. I think it's fascinating that they had a pop-up for that. Maybe I missed something, but because all that did, so actually, I'll bracket that. This memory is basically Dima being like, I am your brother. And then you can hear Nick being like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're some sort of monster, and I'm Nick Valentine. That's basically the conversation that you have.
Yeah, I'm Nicholas Valentine. I don't have a monster for a brother. Because that's what it says. It's like, I'm your brother.
Mm-hmm.
I'm your friend.
So evidently at one point, Nick did not think he was a synth.
Yeah, I think that's because the Nick Valentine, I think he tells us that earlier in the game. Because the Nick Valentine memory is like, mind wiped.
Right.
Whatnot.
So then you go to a soda factory for Vim, which is a soda that only appears here on this island, I think, and is based on Moxie, which is like the soda of Maine. I have never had it. I actually thought I should go get some Moxie. I should try it for the show, but I didn't get to the store in time for this. Anyway,
I thought maybe it was like a what's that H.P. Lovecraft?
Vril, yes.
I thought it was maybe that.
You go to the Vim factory. You go that's filled with super mutants. You fight some super mutants. You go down to the basement. There's Kai, we already mentioned, which is like some sort of robot panel thing that won't let you into a medical bay. Like this was the memory. It's like Dima says that this is like his secret medical facility. It's like, oh, that's great. I love it when the robot has a secret medical facility. That's usually good. And you can... I used Nick to talk to Kai, and then Kai, like, opened the surgery room door, and there's just a bunch of blood in there, and then a case that is filled with oodles and oodles of ammo, and nothing else that I found, although I could have possibly overlooked something. But then you go out, and you look at it, and it's like, shallow grave. And you dig up the shallow grave, and there's a coffin in there. And inside that coffin, there is a skeleton and a holotape. And it turns out that the skeleton belongs to Captain Avery, the woman who's in charge of Far Harbor. And Dima killed the original Captain Avery, replaced her with a synth, and then like removed his own memory of having done so.
Yeah, and also for Dima, the synth who gets mind wiped is also being killed.
Yes,
and so it's like this double murder,
right?
And Dima was like, "I'm not remembering this shit."
Yeah, the tape very much confused me because it's Dima talking with the synth that he uses to replace Captain Avery, but the subtitles that I had on named the person that is the other person that is talking as Harbor Woman, not as synth. So I thought he was talking to another human, and I was like, why is this woman asking Dima about what's going to happen when her brain gets sucked out? Like, what's going on? Is this supposed to be Captain Avery? And it's not until it got to the end that I realized, like, oh, like Avery was killed. This is the synth that he is talking to, and he is basically like convincing the synth that it is for the greater good of Acadia, for them to have a person highly placed in Far Harbor who will basically be a moderating influence on the various tensions, and also like basically be counted on to be friendly to Acadia itself.
Right. What do you think about Dima being kind of like the worst CIA?
I mean, I guess it's pretty interesting. At least when Dima replaces people with synths, there seems to be a reason for it.
Well, like, Dima's whole thing is, like, running hardcore ops on other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the most, like, I'm gonna blow your shit apart. I'm gonna, like, literally, I'm gonna detonate a nuclear weapon on your ass.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm going to generate, hell fog so that your skin melts off your bones, right? I'm gonna Raiders of the Lost Ark your ass, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to kill and replace your closest friends. The exact thing that is done by the people who made me.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? It bothers me. I'm just going to disavow it. I didn't do that. I didn't do that shit.
I removed those memories.
I don't even know I did that. Who could know? Were you around? Did you find that out? No. No one knew about it. You know what I mean? There's this kind of like... just like being hardcore as shit evil. Like everything Dima does is some straight evil stuff. And like, well, I think I'll just choose to forget about that.
Mm-hmm.
Just burning the classified documents. I don't know. To me, it was just like, God, like all these factions are just terrible. And I like that. I like the classic Falloutism of like, God, fuck all these people.
Right.
All these people, like these like fundamentalist nuclear war worshippers, that's just terrible. Like, these people are no good, although that guy has a great hat. The Far Harbor people who like want to like dominate the island to their will, no good. That's bad too. What about all these creatures that live here? And then this screw up monster robot who is like too cowardly to even remember the awful things it does, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's good, and it doesn't fall cleanly along like stuff that we talked about in the main game, right? Where every faction has to be positioned in such a way that you can accommodate the player who wants to side with that faction. Here, every single faction kind of has something awful about them, and you just... I don't know, you gotta like do the math in your head, right? It doesn't pull its punches in the way that I think the main game does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know what you did, but I shot straight back to Acadia and I told Dima everything.
What did I do here? Yes, like about Dima's memories.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I told Dima all of his memories, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, what? No, I couldn't have done that. And I'm like, nope, here are all your memories. Read them and weep, sucker. And he feels really, really bad. And he's like, well, obviously, we just need to replace some more people with synths. And I'm like, no, that's not what's going to happen. Dima, you're going to walk into town and you're going to tell everyone what you did. And he's like, that's not good, because that's going to make them kill me and also all the other synths. They'll be turned against Acadia forever. And I'm like, you wanted synths and humans to be treated equally, Dima. You wanted them to be seen as equal. Well, this is how you do it, is you're going to march into town and you're going to tell everyone what you did, and you're going to face human justice. And he's like, I guess you're right. I guess that's what I'm going to do. I actually tell him to trust humanity, which is a very funny thing to do in a Fallout game. Anyway, go to Far Harbor. He walks into the middle of town, and he tells everyone like gathers, and he says that he has replaced one of them with a synth. And of course, everyone's like, who'd you replace? And he's like, I cannot tell you. I will not tell you. I need you to just trust me on this. Like, it is safer for you and also for the person involved who has no knowledge of what they truly are, that if just no one knows. Anyway, but I'm telling you that this is what I did. Please show me your human justice or whatever. Well, of course, everyone is like, okay, let's like kill Dima. Like, let's destroy them. And also all the other synth. There's one guy, Alan, who is always talking with Avery and sort of arguing. There's a bit at one point you can go to the town and you can find Alan out front, and he's like shot one of the children of the Atom. His whole deal is like he wants to destroy both Acadia and the children and have, Far Harbor just like recolonize the island essentially. So he's like, let's kill Dima, and then like, let's go to Acadia and kill all the other synths. And I say to him, and it's another like speech or persuasion option, I'm like, would you just shut up? And everyone's like, yeah, Alan, like, why don't you shut up? We hate you. And he's like, who are you going to trust, me or this mainlander? And he has a character who's like his sister, and she's like, yeah, like, why would you trust the mainlander? She's not a harbor woman, blah, 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 blah. And then everyone else is like, well, wait a minute. Who was it that did the captain's feast? Why? Or the captain's dance? That was the mainlander. That was the stranger. Who was it that got my uncle? Why, that was the stranger. Who was it that retook the lumber mill? It was the stranger. Who was it that...
Oh, that's very cool. So it, like, rewards you for doing all this stuff by, like, making you, like, part of your argument for appealing.
Right. Everyone is basically like, well, what is Al... Like, and this is almost verbatim, right? This is not it's a paraphrase, but it's a very close paraphrase. There's a whole bunch of people who are like, Alan, what have you ever done for any of us? Like, this is what the stranger did, right? And so because I am saying that, basically saying like we should judge Dima, but we should like the people of of Acadia itself, like they are innocent, right? Like this was all Dima's doing. Everyone is like, yes, okay, fine. Acadia can stay. Dima, you've been sentenced to death. And then they shoot him in the head.
I feel like I missed a thing there. What?
Specifically, like what I did is I talked them down from destroying Acadia, but they executed Dima.
Oh my god! Really didn't feel like that's what you were building toward.
No,
that really didn't sound like the thing that you were. Well, all right.
Yeah.
I just helped Dima bury all this.
Oh, okay.
And I said, this is the right thing to do. I was like, this is what we should all be doing. Is just letting you, like it would be worse to do all that. Although I did kill the, because here's what Dima suggests. This is like Dima being even more CIA-like. You ready for this? Because you didn't get here. When I presented all this information to Dima, like all the same stuff about the memories. By the way, the memories really pissed me off because the first three are the only ones that matter. Mm-hmm. Then the fourth one is the one you were talking about, just the Nick Valentine Easter egg, basically. And the fifth one is like, don't you want a cool suit of armor? No, I don't. I don't care about that. Oh,
that's right. Yeah.
But so I do that, and I was like, Dima, the only way to get out of here, with everyone happy and no one dead, the only way we're going to do that is if we quadruple down. Dima sends me. God, what's the guy's name? The Grand Inquisitor, or whatever his name is?
High Confessor or whatever.
High Confessor. Dima says, you could kill the High Confessor and we could replace him with a synth. And then everyone, like all leaders would be synths on the island, so everyone would get along.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I guess we got to do it. I mean, this is the appeal of the CIA,
Yeah, yeah.
And so I went and did that. And I lured him down. So it's actually kind of like the flip of what you just described, because I do get the sense that if I'd done all the quests for him, this would have gone differently. But basically, I went and talked to him, and I had to manufacture a tape of his predecessor, basically saying he was going to come back and take over, Confessor Martin or whatever his name is.
Mm-hmm.
none of that really matters. I ended up going down into like the basement with him, and he was like, "I wasn't. You didn't convince me of jack shit. Get him, boys." And I had to kill him and his lackeys. And then, because his body can never be found, right? Because we're replacing him, he got bricked up into a wall. His dead body got hidden in a wall. And then we replaced him. And then Dima said, "We've solved it all. You did it, hero."
Time to forget I ever did this.
But he didn't say that, but presumably that is the next thing to happen.
Right.
Wild. But yeah, so that's how I ended it all up. And like every quest ended, ding, 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 all the experience points going up, looking good. Yep.
Yeah, so Dima got killed. I went back to Acadia and I was like, "Hey, Kasumi, got some updates on the situation. Turns out Dima was doing all sorts of shady stuff, and now he's dead. And that's your life now. This is what you've chosen to be a part of. By the way, have you ever considered maybe going back to your family because they love you?" And she's like, "Well, they're not really my family. It's clear I was replaced, and they just think that I'm their daughter." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, they still really love you, though, even if that's the case. And I don't know, maybe you can help them out if you go back home." She's like, "You know what? Yeah, I'll go back." And so we do.
There's something really funny you can do. Whereas in that conversation, you can be like, "You're not a synth. Go home," which is what I told her.
Yeah.
Which again, within the allegory is pretty fucked
Yes,
up, right?
It is. It's extremely.
You know, and be like, "Look, you thought you were that, but you're not. Go back home."
Right.
To your controlling dad. Okay. But I was just curious about what happened, so I choose that. But here's the funny thing. You can go back. You go to her house, and the first thing you can say to her, optionally, or to her family, is, "She's a synth." Which there's something really funny, like cruel, right?
Yes.
It's awful to do. But there's something really funny about that, about like, "Look, you're not a synth, go home." First thing, "Hey, this kid's a synth." There's something really funny about the affordance of that, given to us by the game. I did not do that, but I did think it was fun.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're pretty up on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought just in terms of like all the little bits and pieces, and one thing that I realized as I was making my notes that I never followed up on, there was a robot that I met in town who gave me a quest, but like it didn't actually get marked as a quest in my log, which is why I forgot to clear it. Her name was...
one of the, what do you call it, like miscellaneous quests?
Yeah, it was like a Miss Nanny robot, and she was like, "I work at a hotel on the island, and there's been a murder. Please come help us solve the murder." And I have no idea what's going on there because I didn't follow her to the hotel. I just said, "Yep, I'll look into that," and then did a whole bunch of other stuff instead. So anyway, that's my point, right? Is that there felt like there was like variety here. I thought the environment was kind of interesting, even if I found, combat and various like barricades to that pretty tedious, like I tend to. Just in terms of the way that this was written, it felt like Bethesda getting really close to a more traditional or sort of like older style Fallout. And I thought they did a pretty good job with it. So I don't know. I'm in this in a weird spot, I guess, because clearly this is a thing that in macro, maybe Bethesda is not particularly interested in doing, but in the micro, they can do something like it. So good job, I guess.
Well, do you think World of Coke is going to do that? I forget what it's called. Nuka Land?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be World of Coke. It's really odd. I wonder if they'll address this. Like, why is there a Nuka world in New England? That should be in post-apocalyptic Georgia.
That's right. It should be.
Right? I don't know.
Questions we're going to submit at the end of the show.
So I would hope that Nuka World is as interesting as this. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's probably not. I don't know why I feel that way. Well, I do know why I feel that way. I feel like the situation we might stand a good chance of ending up in is kind of like a Mothership Zeta style thing, where the novelty of the premise is expected to stand in for a lot of, I don't know, actual interesting stuff to do.
You think it's going to be all goof 'em ups?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. It just feels Nuka World. It's got that kind of feel to it, or just in concept. Like I can see Bethesda falling into that sort of trap, but we'll find out in 2 weeks, I guess.
I've been alerted to something that we didn't know about. The Vault DLC that we talked about maybe last partisode, something like that. Where it's just a base, not just a base. Has a ghoul overseer who makes you get into hijinks. Do we want to do that as a part of next time?
I mean, sure. I don't know how much hijinks there are.
Okay. I'll do it, and you don't have to. How about that?
Okay. I just know, like, the sense that I got is that it was like, here's a character to like holler at you and make you do like tiny little tutorial quests for eventual crafting stuff you've got to do. So I was not too hot on the idea.
Kind of a string of crafting stuff.
Yes.
I see.
That was my suspicion, but I don't actually know. You'll find out, and you'll report back to me.
I'll find out. And I'll report back.
Okay.
Well, we'll be back in 2 weeks. If you enjoyed this and you want to hear it as a podcast rather than watch this video, you can go to patreon.com/rangedtouch. There's a link in the description down below. And you can do it, you can click the little button there, give us $3 a month, and get access to a podcast feed. Some people like it. We do all kinds of other stuff over on the Patreon. You can give us more money and get access to other stuff. Very soon, we're going to have a new show coming out. And you'll learn all about that. It's going to be about reading genre literature, so science fiction, horror, romance, the others, fantasy, and all the other crime. And it'll be a little bit I would say maybe like this show in the sense that we have seasons that are dedicated to particular things, but, it's not like our show Just King Things where we just read one author. So I think it's going to be really exciting. I think there's going to be some pieces that if you like this show, and you want to hear us talk about other stuff kind of like this, you should check that out. There will be more information about that at twitter.com/rangedtouch, where you can go see what we're doing. And I'm sure we'll talk about it on this show when it comes out. It'll be out on June 9th.
Wahoo!
Wahoo! We'll be back in 2 weeks with Nuka World. Is it called Nuka World?
It is called Nuka World, yes.
Okay, Nuka World. And that'll be, I think, the final episode, right, of Fallout 4.
Of Fallout 4, yep. That'll be closing the book on Fallout 4. So
we'll be doing that, and of course we will be playing Fallout 76, but not like all of Fallout 76. I think what we have decided is one big massive episode on playing like 10 to 20 hours of Fallout 76 each. Is that the general gist?
Yeah, I think that would work.
Great.
Yeah.
We'll be doing that. We'll be back in 2 weeks with Nuka World, and then sometime right after that with Fallout 76, and then Too Much Future is over. Wow. And then we got to do Too Much Mass.
Future and Mass?
It's our show about Catholicism.
Okay, all right.
No, it's actually Too Much Mass is our show about Martin Scorsese.
That's what the people have been wanting.
That's right. But we'll be back in 2 weeks with Nuka World.
Until next time, war never changes, but Fallout sure does.